Okay. Okay. But it was start now.
Yeah, yep.
Kenn Hopkins, Kenn. First of the 92nd Field Artillery, Charlie Battery. I have no idea what section I was in.
Okay,
I'd bounce from one section to the other,
okay.
one gun to the other.
All right, that's good enough. Give me a little bit of a background on, how you entered the military, how you wound up in Vietnam.
Uh, Came back from a surfing trip from Hawaii, and I was there for 6 months. Came back here, uh, walked up to meet my mailman for some reason, and he handed me the letter. I got drafted, so I went in, went to Fort Ord, uh, AIT at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, went to jump school, and then figured, what the heck? Why keep fighting? I'll go ahead and volunteer for Vietnam. So I volunteered for Vietnam. I figured, why give them the decision? I'll make the decision myself.
So when you're drafted, you weren't necessarily flagged to go directly to Vietnam. Is
Oh,
that
no, no,
correct?
no.
Okay.
Well, you get drafted, you go to basic training, you go to AIT, which is advanced infantry training or advanced individual training, depending upon what job they gave you, what MOS. Then from there, you would get assigned Germany or someplace else. One friend of mine went to Thailand
Okay.
from there. So after your AIT, your advanced individual training, you would be sent to your next location. Well, at that point in time, I signed up for airborne, and I went to jump school. I figured I'd put it off a little bit further, and that's when I decided, what the hell, I'll go ahead and volunteer for Vietnam and take that choice away from them and make it my choice.
Right.
Figure, why not go see what happens, go see what it's about.
And so prior to that, you said you came back from a surfing trip. Tell me where you grew up and
Basically, grew up here in California, LA, uh, San Diego, lived in Guam, lived in Hawaii, all through my childhood. My dad was in the Navy, so we moved every 2 years.
okay.
Mostly California. Like I said, we lived in Guam for a while, lived in Hawaii for a while, but from ninth grade until I've lived here in Chula Vista.
Okay. And through that growing up in that military experience, hopping from place to place, your dad in the Navy, up until that letter arrived, had you had any plans on going military yourself?
At that point in time in my life, people were talking about Vietnam. Vietnam was a bad thing to do. Growing up, it was the Army. We'd play Army, we'd play uh, Cowboys and Indians, shoot 'em up sort of stuff. I figured, the military would be part of my life, but when I was in college, uh, Vietnam was a place that you didn't want to go. The military wasn't a place you wanted to go. People were being drafted. So once I got my draft notice, I didn't run away to Canada or anything like that. I figured, what the hell,
Right.
you know, why fight it?
So I told you I did get an advanced copy of Marvin's book, and you're introduced as kind of a surfer dude. Is that pretty accurate? I mean,
Yeah.
you weren't your typical, straight laced military guy at the time.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. From ninth grade, from 1963 until today, even, I still surf. I mean, that's been my life. That's one reason why I went to Hawaii, to go surfing, just to surf. I got island fever. I'm young, dumb, full of cum. Uh, Hawaii was too small. There wasn't enough to do.
Right.
So when I came back, I was here for maybe a week. And what the hell? I'll go up and get the mail. And that's when I got my draft notice. And not much you could do after that.
Right.
Went ahead and went in.
So you went to Fort Sill, went through your training, and then you volunteered to be assigned to Vietnam.
Correct.
So, and that's as part of the infantry or artillery or what?
Artillery.
You're artillery. Okay.
Yeah.
So heading to Vietnam, you know that your artillery. What's your job going to be in Vietnam?
Artilleryman. There's not. You don't come in and be a section chief or be a gunner or a powder loader per se. I was just going to be assigned to an artillery unit.
Okay.
That's all I knew. That's all I knew.
So what type of year? What year are we at here?
1969.
Okay. When do you arrive in
March.
Okay.
March of '69. I arrived. It took me maybe 3 weeks to actually get to Pleiku Artillery Hill, which was the home of the 1st of the 92nd,
Okay.
1st Field Artillery. And at that point in time, the battery, Charlie Battery, was out on some mountaintop getting their butts kicked. So until they got off of that, I stayed in base camp.
Okay, let's wait for that to.
That's all. It was a
Okay.
15-minute one.
Oh, okay.
It's only one biggie.
All right.
From there, I was sent to Dak To, where I was assigned to the section that I was going to be in. At that point in time, we stayed there maybe 2 days, and then my gun was sent to Firebase 6. Just my gun. Out of the battery, it was just the one gun. Sent to Firebase 6, that was my first introduction to war,
Okay.
basically. All the rest of it had been innocuous. I mean, there wasn't anything going on as far as what I could see of a war. Firebase 6, there was a lot of action up there. We stayed there for, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks. And then we were sent to Ben Het, which was under siege at that point in time, receiving anywhere from 200 to 300 incoming rounds a day. It was, for a brand new guy in country, it was a pretty harrowing experience.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy.
To see all that stuff. We would, at Ben Het, since they were under siege, they'd have to drop supplies to us. Because they couldn't convoy in, and they would drop stuff, and a lot of times we would be outside watching them drop the supplies. We'd also be watching them, the incoming coming in, blowing up, stuff like that.
The incoming
Yeah,
towards you.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
tell me what that was like.
It was it was kind of interesting. I mean, when this one particular time, our gun was inside of a hooch.
Tell
yeah.
me what a hooch is. Yeah.
A hooch is someplace that you would build to live, where you'd sleep. They actually put the gun inside of this hooch, and there was six bunks also. I can show you a picture of it.
Okay.
But we had a little, I don't know what you want to call it, a firewall in front of the door. And I was outside smoking with some other guy, and we were watching the incoming about 200 yards away.
Okay.
They just come in, oh yeah, we're doing this sort of stuff. And all of a sudden, one hit fairly close in. Oh shit. And at that point in time, I saw a piece of shrapnel, and everything went slow motion. As I'm trying to get off of the berm, or off of our little break, whatever the heck you want to call it, I'm going down as fast as I can, and I keep seeing that piece of shrapnel, and it hit me on the belt,
Right.
on my hip bone, bounced off. That was the first time I ever got hit. It was interesting how everything went into slow motion.
You could actually see it
I
coming.
could see that piece coming at me, and it was slow motion when it hit real time. You know, to me it was interesting anyhow, and I kept that piece for a long time.
Right.
You know, but that was Ben Het. There was a concentration of Firebase 6, Docto, and Ben Het. All of them were getting hit at that particular point in time. A lot of action going on there.
And is that in the Boo Prang area, or is that
No,
somewhere?
no,
That's
no. This
somewhere
is in
else?
Pleiku,
Oh, Playco. Okay.
Pleiku area.
Alright.
Docto, Kontum, Ben Het. Firebase 6 was just off of Docto, up on one of the little mountaintops up there.
Okay.
So all within that area. Kontum, Docto, Pleiku, they tended to be a area where there was a lot of enemy activity.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like there was a lot of stuff going on in that area always. I guess since the start of Vietnam,
Right.
because you have Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam, kind of in that area.
Right.
So they would be coming from Cambodia, you know, and so it was a good staging area. All the mountain yards. That's where a lot of concentration of mountain yards were. Mountain yards were the tribal people, kind of like our American Indians.
Right.
They were the village people, you know.
And they were fighting alongside the Americans.
Yes, yes. On Firebase 6, 12, 13-year-old kids fighting. I can show you pictures of them also. This one 12-year-old, Ben, his dad was there also. But these kids were out there in a war fighting. I can't see my 14-year-old doing that same thing. I just can't see it.
Right.
These kids were there, you know, fighting alongside of us.
Wow.
You know,
So this is a 12, 13-year-old with a machine gun.
yeah, Mo. We gave him our M60, and we got hit one night on Firebase 6, and Mo's up there with his M60, John Wayne style, and I yelled at him, Mo. He turned around, big shit-eating grin on his face, and turned back and just started firing again. This is a 13-year-old kid.
Oh my God.
You know, unbelievable stuff like that. The tribe people, the mountain yards, they were the ones I fought for, not for the Vietnamese. The Vietnamese had a tendency not to be reliable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they'd run, they'd steal from us. The mountain yards, you could leave your stuff out, they wouldn't touch it.
Like personal effects, or
Personal effects, they wouldn't touch. At least my experience over there, the mountain yards were the people that I fought for.
mm-hmm.
You know, not the Vietnamese
And
per se.
So did they speak English, or did...
The kids, yes.
Okay.
The kids picked up, as kids do.
Right.
You know, they'll pick up a language, and yeah, we could talk to them, not have a philosophical conversation with them,
Right.
but definitely conversations. How are you? How old are you? You know, blah blah blah, that sort of stuff.
Right. So, and they were with you, you know, the mountain yards were at the different fire bases you were at. They're always...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We had Vietnamese with us a couple of times. One of them was after Kate at LZ Mike Smith. We had Vietnamese there, but they were just not reliable. They just weren't reliable.
Tell me then, how do you... That was... You described Ben Het. Tell me then how you arrive at Kate.
Oh, gee whiz. Going through the course of the year, that was in April, May. Ben Het, those places. Kate was in October. and we were in Bamituit, and we were in a staging area because there was some big operation that was going to be taking place, and we were waiting to find out where we were going to be going. You know, which guns, if we were going to be the full battery, all 6 guns, or if they were going to split us up again, which most of the time, the battery, while I was there, was only together as 6 guns, maybe 3 locations. All the rest of the time, we would be there for 2 weeks. There'd be 2 guns, there'd be 1 gun. You know, the rest of the battery would be other places.
Okay.
At Bamituit, we were at this staging area, all 6 guns, waiting to be assigned to a location to go and see what the configuration of the battery was going to be.
So was it just in was that specific just to your battery? And I'm going to get the terminology wrong. Your battery, your platoon, that you were a mobile.
Yeah, we were air mobile, even though we didn't have air mobile designation. A lot of the guys on the crews had a tendency to be airborne, or at least airborne qualified. They had all gone to jump school.
Okay.
Some of them hadn't, but there were a lot of us who had gone through airborne training, jump school, and we were air mobile. We had, in the year that I was with them, we had 2 convoys, and I was told we were on convoys just so that we wouldn't have the designation of air mobile. I don't know how the military thinks, but most of the places that I was at, we were helicoptered in. You know, the either a Chinook, you know, the long passenger helicopter,
Right.
or the crane. It looked kind of like a grasshopper. That was for heavy lifting helicopter. They would carry our guns to the location, and then we'd either be taken in with the Slick or, you know, the Chinook, the passenger helicopter.
And so, okay, and just to be clear, I mean, you're a 155,
155.
and they're, you know, taking that in by helicopter. That's pretty. How much is one of those weigh?
Heavy. They're heavy.
That's huge.
They're heavy. Yeah, Slick couldn't carry them. Chinook, from what I understood, that would be their max.
Okay.
The crane could carry all sorts of stuff. They could probably carry 2 of our guns. But we were the largest air mobile artillery piece. They couldn't take an 8-inch, say, because an 8-inch was just too darn heavy. So a 155 World War II piece of artillery, they could still move it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, how many were flown into Cape?
2 155s, and there was 1 105, which was a little smaller artillery piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get to Kate, and then is that when Kate is first being set up, or what's?
Yeah. Well, when we got there, it was kind of, from what I remember, I don't want to say Agent Orange, but it was cleared off.
Okay.
You know, there was grass there, but, you know, no consequence. We got there when we were at Bamituit, and I heard that we were going to be so close to the Cambodian border. I became very apprehensive. You know, I said, BS. We're being put out there as bait for all intents and purposes. We were 3 clicks away from the Cambodian border, 4 clicks away from an NVA staging area, training camp, whatever they want to call it. This is what we had heard, you know, rumor. Okay. Mm-hmm. When we got there, you know, the first thing we do, put the guns down. We make sure that we get the gun aligned, so that if anything happens, we can be ready right then and there.
Right.
Then we started building the protection for the powder and the Joes, the 99-pound shells, projectiles. I won't call them a shell. the projectile, and we'd put protective covering on those, build our parapet. Everything was focused on getting that gun prepared, ready for firing, if indeed we needed it. So that took a good part of the day. Once that was finished, then we could start on building our own hooches, our own little private places to sleep.
Okay. And is that just a covered hole in the ground, or what is a personal hooch?
Some people, well, what I would do, I'd dig down maybe 2 feet, sometimes 3 feet, and then we were always supplied with wood posts, PCP, I think it was, metal strips. We'd put those on top, and then we'd just start sandbagging it.
Okay.
Sandbag the sides, three wide sometimes. The top at least 3 layers, sometimes 4.
Okay.
Then we'd always have our little door, and we'd always have a little splash wall in front of the door.
Okay.
You know, just in case something hit at the door,
Right.
you know, it wouldn't come in and blast us.
So that was, I guess, a place of some safety, or where you go during incoming? Or
Relative safety, yeah.
Okay.
Primary was to sleep,
Right. Okay.
you know. That's what it was for.
Okay. Gotcha. When you're assigned to Kate, and then you're set up, and you say, like, you align the gun, you know, in case it's needed, this and that. What's the expectation going into Kate? That it, you know.
Nasty.
Okay.
We're expecting, you don't know what to expect. You always expect the worst. I was expecting to see, you know, the fact that we would come in hot and heavy, but we didn't, which was to a certain extent a surprise because we were so close to the Cambodian border. I figured these people knew what we were doing, you know, because they would prep the area usually, have people fire in at least to protect the area, artillery coming in, bombarding, or you'd have the jets come in and prep an area. I don't know if that happened here, but when we landed, it was clean. I mean, we didn't have any firing at us or anything like that. So my misgivings started to dissipate at that point. You know, first day's good. Okay. Second, third day, fourth day, fifth day. Okay, this place isn't too bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, our only problems were the bugs. I mean, we had, I think it was the second week, a little gold bug that would come up from the, if I can remember correctly, the south, come up over the south of the hill, and they'd land on you, just suck your blood. They'd bite you.
Really?
Oh,
Like a little beetle, or?
they were maybe 1/4 inch.
Okay.
And they'd come up, little gold bug, and they'd land on you and just, you know, start eating you.
Oh man.
Oh, it's terrible because usually didn't wear shirts. Okay. When they attacked, we had to wear shirts.
Yeah.
And Vietnam was hot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's uncomfortable having shirts on. One thing, if I can backtrack, when we landed on Kate, we all of us noticed, that there was a ridge a little bit higher than us to the east of us. There was a ridge that wrapped basically around the LZ. That was higher than us, which is just stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Artillery needs to be on high. If you have something, if you have a position that's higher than another position, the high position has the advantage because they can shoot down at you.
Mm-hmm.
So all of us were a little apprehensive about that. Everybody who once you landed, you saw that ridge line. It was just stupid.
Yeah.
Why would they do something like that? Why not put us up on that higher ridge?
Right.
But they chose not to. They put us on Kate. Uh, After a while, routine falls in. 2, maybe 3 weeks. Uh, I started to get to know the tribe, the mountain yards around us,
Mhm.
and I'd go on a little excursions down the east side of our hill, down to a little river that was down there. They'd get water. I'd just go down there just to look around.
Mhm.
Never went up to that ridge, but then Albrecht comes in. I mean, we were playing volleyball, just having a great time. This is fabulous.
Yeah.
You know, vacation wonderland. 21-year-old camping out at night, playing volleyball. We would put water inside the powder canisters, put them up on the hooches, and by the end of the day, the water would be nice and toasty.
Yeah.
We could get clean, you know, a hot bath sort of deal. The place was turning into a really nice LZ.
Yeah.
It really was. Uh, they'd chopper in food to us every once in a while, hot food. Uh, so the place was just turning really nice. The beret that was there, uh, I don't know his rank. There was an officer, and then there was a enlisted guy. The enlisted guy would come out and play volleyball with us a lot of times. And evidently, we'd heard that they were going to be rotated out because the guy was going on R&R or something like that. So they were going to be replaced. And that's when Dan Pirelli came in to replace the sergeant, the Green Beret sergeant.
Okay.
And then Albrecht comes in. The day Albrecht comes in, he comes around. He comes in and starts looking at the place and goes, from what I understand, the place was piss poor as far as defense. He wanted us to start tightening stuff up, just to prepare stuff. That same day, I gave the mountain yards that were next to my hooch. You have the top of the mountain. This is south. My gun and the other 5.5 are over here. We had a 105 back down over here. We had a Connex, a big steel box container. And then there was my hooch, and then the mountain yards were down around the perimeter of the LZ. After an excursion down, after we came up, I gave the guys my M16, my M60, our sections M60. I figured, hell, we're not going to need this, you know. Usually, if we do get hit, we're on the gun. We're not doing M60s or our own little weapons. So after that, I gave them our 60, went down there. Myself and another one of our guys, I honestly don't remember who, went down, set it up, and we saw movement in the tree. So we turned the 60 on and shot it, or at least to let the guys get familiar with the 60. We shot it because it was ours, and then we let them get a feel for it, and we left them a bunch of ammo. Well, Albrecht evidently saw the state of our perimeter, the fact that this other beret wasn't sending out patrols, or at least he may have sent them out, but they were haphazard. They wouldn't go too far, and they never found contact. That night, Albrecht decided to go ahead and send out a patrol. They got hit. And later on in the night, you know, we go to bed. and we start hearing firing. We're going, oh shit, you know. So anyhow, we get up. We hear that the patrol that Albrecht sent out had made contact. We're going, oh crap, you know, here goes our vacation.
Right.
You know, the shit's going to start hitting the fan here. So that was that night. Next morning, I hear what I first interpreted as the 105 firing. I thought, well, okay, maybe something's going on over there. The 105 has a fire mission. No big deal. I'm still laying in bed, and I'm hearing this, the explosion of the 105 in my mind, and I'm hearing it. And the 105 can fire pretty rapidly. And this was about the same sort of cadence of bam, 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 getting louder. Something's wrong. Then I hear a bing. Evidently, one of the rounds hit the tube of my gun. And at that point in time, I knew it wasn't the 105 firing. I got out of there, went up to the top, went up to where the gun was, and saw this big smoke black thing on the tube of our gun.
Okay.
I'm going, oh shit, this thing got hit. And then looked around, and I can see the holes just marching up. So evidently, the other ridge that was higher than us, they just walked up a Ricky rifle up to our gun, and then they also hit the other 5.5 also. We're out of commission.
So both guns are gone.
As far as we knew, both guns were hit. My gun, because of the tube, that thing was unusable. The other 5.5, it had been hit, but the tube wasn't hit at all. So it looked like it was still serviceable, but we still didn't use it. At that point in time, the 05 then got hit, and it was destroyed. Artillerymen? We're no longer artillerymen. We had to turn into infantrymen at that point in time. I had a M79. That was my personal weapon. I didn't have a M16. And one of the guys on the 05, Norton, he also had a M79. Well, him and I got together. You have to excuse me if the days, I don't know which day in particular, okay? Him and I got together, and we were spotting the ridge line, and we were on the north side of the Connex, which was that metal building. And we saw movement on the ridge line. Both of us fired. And that ridge line was essentially max distance for the M79. And both of them just lobbed over there and hit. We didn't see any movement at that point in time. We figured, okay. Norton went ahead and fired another one. And just as we saw movement starting again over on the ridge line, his M79 hit him. Yeah, you know, we're ecstatic about that. We go over and tell his section what's going on, that we'd gotten somebody. Again, timeline, I don't know. Little bits and pieces. Since the 05 was out of commission, they decided to go ahead and bring in another one, take that one out and bring in another one. From what I remember, when they got this new gun, they decided to test fire it, and they put in a beehive round, which was an anti-personnel round. They'd have, I don't know how many, little tiny flechette darts. You know, they'd be about an inch. And what would happen, the thing would explode so far out of the tube, and then it would just expand. And anything within a certain area would be pinned. Okay? beautiful anti-personnel weapon.
Yes.
If you're in that situation,
Right.
okay. And they test fired it. It seemed to work. The 05 worked. Okay, we're in business. Okay. What I remember, Albrecht was down there at the same time. Him and I started walking back up the west side of the perimeter, and we're looking down, checking the what's going on down in the valley there, and we saw movement down there also. I think it was two guys. He calls in air. Air comes in. I don't know if it was how big a bomb it was, but I remember it opening, and then when it landed, I saw the concussion waves coming up. Didn't hear the explosion yet. Just saw the concussion, and then I heard the explosion. I go, wow, this is so neat. I mean, this is movies, right?
Right. Unfolding
Okay.
right there.
Yeah, exactly. And right after that happened, then we had a CP command post up on the west side, and we figured that we'd never get any sort of ground attack because it was way too steep. Way too steep. All of a sudden, incoming from the tree line that was on that west side, Albrecht and I ran up to the CP. Doc was in there. Don't know his name other than Doc.
Okay.
3 or 4 Montagnards were in there. They're firing. Albrecht gets in there. I get in there. And we're firing. Albrecht's calling in air support. At that point in time, the air support would be gunships, okay, helicopter gunships,
Okay.
come cruising in. When they would leave, we would pop up and shoot, okay? I got my timing goofed up. Got hit with shrapnel on my arm. Pieces of it bounced off. Some pieces bounced off. The Montagnard to the left of me saw this. Number one, he thought that was the greatest thing in the world. He was going to stay with me because, hey, metal bounces off of me.
You're invincible.
Yeah, if he only knew, how I really felt at that time. But after a while, the ground attack ceased. Okay, go about our normal business. There was another time when we're again on the west side, west southwest. Our hill, the ridge line came around, and then there was a beautiful valley down in here, and then some other nice little hills. We were standing up there. There were a couple of us. I think maybe Kuhn was with us, Nelson Kuhn. I think Pirelli was there, and a couple other of us. We were watching the helicopters work, and we saw a little loach go real close to the ground. I'm going, what the hell is that guy doing? I think it was Pirelli said, well, what he's doing, he's drawing fire for these other 2 gunships up here, waiting, The loach guy, the air people have to be the bravest people in the world. I swear to God. They were fabulous. If it wasn't for them, we probably wouldn't be. But the loach would go down trying to draw fire, and then the gunships up here, if fire did start, they were right on them. Right on them. We were watching them work. I mean, stuff like that. I'm going, God, this stuff's fabulous. This is good stuff here. Another time, I remember coming back from the 05 area. I had a tendency to walk the area, make sure I knew what was going on, make sure that I knew who was doing what.
Right.
Okay, and if they needed information, I'd tell them what I knew. Anyhow, I was coming back from the 105, checking on them, and coming up the hill, I see this with a red something or other behind it. I see another one. A couple of the guys up where my gun was. Run! And I'm going, oh shit. So I started running, and then I remember the movies. Okay, if you're being shot at, zigzag. So I'm zigzagging, and I'm seeing these rockets or something going up over my head. There must have been 5 or 6 of them. By the time I got up to my area where my gun was and these other guys were, and one of the guys said, God, that was just like in the movies, you know, because I'm zigzagging. Here are these evidently it was a Ricky rifle, firing at me. Thank God they didn't get it down to a level where they could hit me.
So are they striking the hill above you, or?
They were missing entirely. Evidently, they couldn't get it down low enough to actually hit the ground. Maybe they were brand new to the weapon. I don't know. Thank God they didn't know what they were doing.
Right.
You know. After that, I remember. I know the second day. We decided, since my gun wasn't available for use, we'd go ahead and try and experiment with the other 5.5 that was hit but didn't look to be too badly damaged. We went ahead and prepped it, got it ready, and we made this 15-foot lanyard. Lanyard's what you fire the weapon with, the artillery piece with. Usually, instead of using a lanyard, we just used our hand because we were so close to it, okay? Which you weren't supposed to do, we weren't supposed to do. But we made this 15-foot long lanyard, prepped the gun, aimed it at the ridge line that again ended on the south side, okay? We aimed for that, fired it off, hit, we got a secondary, which means we had hit something of theirs, ammo. Anyhow, our gun was ready.
Right.
Okay, so at least we could do some help support us.
Right.
I remember being told that there was going to be a B-52 strike, you know, and to prepare for that, get inside of a hooch, you know, or some type of protective covering. I couldn't stay inside of a hooch. I just couldn't. A hooch made me claustrophobic at that point in time. I remember in AIT, one of the guys, one of the sergeants, drill sergeants, telling me one night on, I had to pull guard, and he just happened to be there also, telling us about his experiences in Vietnam. And he said, if you ever get hit, your artillery, you don't stay in the hooch. You stay in the hooch, you're dead. You know, because you don't know what's going on.
Right.
You can't protect yourself. So I never did any time when I was in Vietnam, other than Ben Het, stay inside of a hooch when we got hit. You know, you have to protect yourself, because if you don't, you know, you're relying on other people, and it just sometimes it doesn't work.
Right.
So they told us to get inside of hooches. I didn't. Where my gun was, where the Connex was, I got behind the Connex because the B-52 strikes were coming in over here. When the B-52 strikes hit, the whole mountain shook.
Because they're dropping like 500, 700-pound bombs,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Just I mean, and it's not just one or two; it's a whole bunch of them. And our little mountain is just shaking like this, and shrapnel coming down also from them. That's how close they were. An interesting experience that was. I seen B-52 strikes from afar when I was on Firebase 6. You know, I have some images of those also I can show you. But this was really close, really close.
And you're standing behind a Connex. Do they think you're crazy or?
Well, probably.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people thought I was crazy because, like I said, I wouldn't stay inside of a hooch. I
Yeah.
slept outside at night even. I think it was the first or the second night was the time when I actually got to sleep because they had Spooky, a gunship, protecting us at night.
Mhm.
You know, and you could hear the burp of the miniguns that they had. And prior to that evening, I remember it was all brick. Originally, I thought it was Pirelli because Pirelli was younger or older than me, and Albrecht was the same age as me. I didn't realize that he was a captain, and he was the guy that I basically, whenever I talked to anybody, other than that one time when we were watching the helicopters, it was always Albrecht.
Mhm.
He's as old as I am. He can't be an officer, you know. Uh, One night, before night, he came around and gave us these lights that flashed. He said, go around the perimeter, dig them in so that the light shines up, they won't shine out.
Mhm.
So me, a couple other guys went around digging little tiny holes and dropping these things in so the gunship would know at night,
Okay.
okay, here's our perimeter, you know. Uh,
And that's what you described as a spooky. That's who is
yeah, spooky
using
at
them?
night so that they would know where our perimeter was at night
Okay.
and not to shoot into us.
Okay.
And I don't know. It was an interesting time.
So, um, tell me, there's also a mentioning of Ron Ross.
Ah, LT Ross. Yes. Um, our Lieutenant Smith got hit. So he was evacuated back to get medical treatment. Lieutenant Ross came in. Helicopter comes in. Doc and I go over there, uh, see what the heck's going on because we didn't know. And Lieutenant Ross gets off. I start talking to him. He says, I'm here for LT Smith. He's back getting medical treatment, yada, yada, yada. And he tells me a little story that he was supposed to be going on R&R to meet his wife.
Mm-hmm.
But evidently he got some colonel pissed off or something and he got sent out there. Within 5 minutes, I felt really comfortable with this guy. He was a really nice guy, genuine. Uh, and then Doc took him over to meet Albrecht, show him basically the lay of the land. And I guess it was a couple hours later, talking to Doc, and I said, how's the LT? And he said, the LT's dead. Got a piece of shrapnel through his jugulars.
Just a couple hours after he's been.
Yeah, it wasn't long. He wasn't there a day. And he got hit. And Albrecht was there. There wasn't anything he could do, other than to, okay, and because in the Connex, that's where we started putting the bodies. Okay, our wounded, our dead. Uh, that's where we were storing them, and evidently, during some incoming, Ross was going there inspecting it with Albrecht, and he got hit. This is according to Doc.
Mm-hmm.
Felt really bad about that. There was also a time when a helicopter came in, and again, Doc and I ran over there, and there was this colonel in the helicopter. It was a slick, okay? Slick, I don't know, 4 or 6 people could fit in there. A lot of times they would use slicks as the medevacs.
Okay.
They could put people in them. comes over and kind of hovers and yells down to Doc and I, "How you guys doing?" Doc asked him if he could take some of the bodies back so that we could empty out the Connex and get some of the wounded on there, or even the bodies. And the guy said, "Okay, make sure you guys are doing okay." And he took off.
Oh,
You know, son of a bitch. And this colonel, at the award ceremony after everything was over with and done, he gets Silver Star. You know, for what? For what? And but I guess that's a colonel getting his ticket punched.
right.
You know, he was out there in action.
Right.
You know, but he wouldn't help us at all. That just irritated the heck out of us. All of us that saw that, at least Doc and I, you know, we're going, what the hell did this guy get anything for?
Right.
So,
So at this point, and I know the days are kind of blurring together. They're taking heavy fire on an increased basis. The guns are out of commission.
yeah,
And it's getting kind of loud now.
yeah, they're evidently cleaning the area.
And you hit the point where there's a lack of support. It's too dangerous for the helicopters.
For the helicopters, air support, Air Force wouldn't come in anymore. The helicopters, it was too dangerous for them. We were getting air bursts where you cover a lot more area in an air burst. If you hit artillery, if it hits the ground, there's a certain safe area. I mean, the concussion has an effect, but as far as shrapnel goes, there's a certain safe area that you can be. Okay, because it hits, it goes up.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's wait for that to do its final chime.
Okay.
Okay.
He's good. Air burst would be what it is, an air burst, where it bursts and it has a lot more coverage of shrapnel. And me being somebody who doesn't want to be inside, okay, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot I could do outside anymore.
Mm-hmm.
This was on the third day towards, it would be after, I know it was after 3 o'clock. I just couldn't take it anymore. I went over to the new CP, which was dug in. There were quite a few people in there. Must have been maybe 6, 7 people in there. Albrecht was in there talking to whoever he was talking to, trying to get some support. And I come walking in there, and after these 3 days, I may have been able to get 3 hours sleep, you know, in the 3 days. I'm coming in there, and I'm hearing Albrecht talking to these guys, and you know, the other people are talking, blah, blah, this, that, and the other. And then I hear something to the effect that the mountain yards were going to leave. They were going to DD.
This is Albrecht talking to somebody?
Albrecht's talking to somebody, and then other people talking, and I'm understanding that the mountain yards were going to leave. This thing's becoming untenable. You know, we're not getting support. We're not getting supplies. You know, they're running out of bullets. We're not getting any support. Albrecht's trying to get support.
And to put it in perspective, the majority of the people on that base are mountain yards, right?
Yes. Yeah.
They far outnumber.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because at most there were 30 of us, 30 Americans. My gun and artillery 155 full crew is 15. We were lucky if we had 5. The other section may have had 5. The 105 had 6. Okay, so right there, that's 16 people. Then you had Doc, you had the FDC, Fire Direction Control. That would be Bob Johnson and however many people he had, Albrecht and Pirelli. At most, and this is being generous, there would be 30 Americans, perhaps 25. Now the rest of them were mountain yards, the tribe people.
Right.
And they were essentially, I don't want to call them mercenaries, but if they didn't like the situation, if they thought it was untenable, hey, get up and leave.
Right.
So anyhow, they informed Albrecht and Pirelli, this place is untenable. We're going to leave. If we don't get support, we're going to leave tonight. And Albrecht's trying to get support. And all of a sudden, I hear something to the effect that you guys have to support us. And basically it came back that you guys are on your own. And that's the gist of what I got from the conversation, trying to overhear what Albrecht's saying, along with the other people, to the extent that you guys are on your own, sorry about that. They tried to get the Vietnamese, whoever was in charge of the Vietnamese troops in that area, he wouldn't support it because for some unknown reason he didn't get paid enough or whatever. He wasn't going to help us. Even though this is the time of Vietnamization, when the Vietnamese were supposed to start taking more and more responsibility,
Right.
he didn't want to have anything to do with it. We couldn't get him to help us. We couldn't get air to help us. The helicopter support, we couldn't get them either, evidently, from what I'm understanding. It was just too dangerous. Too many people were getting hit. You guys are SOL. You're on your own. And at that point in time, I just, for me personally, I gave up. I said, you guys get me the fuck off this base. This is stupid. So anyhow, Doc, I remember Doc giving me a shot.
Because you're telling, you let it be known.
I let it be known how I felt. This is a bunch of bullshit. We're not being supported by our own people. Get us out of here. I don't care what you have to do. Get us out of here. And I lost it. I totally lost it. This is stupid, to leave us here and just write us off. Not right. Not right at all. I remember Doc giving me a shot and sending me outside with a tag. And a medevac came in and picked me up. As the medevac's taken off, I told them, don't go over on this side because there's an M50, or not an M50, but a 51 cal set up over there because they were firing in on us. He changed his course, and I was in Bamituit. That night is when Albrecht decided, hey, we got to get out of here. And to a certain extent, if anything, if my freaking out helped him make a decision, then my freaking out was of benefit to the other guys. I felt really bad once I got into Bamituit, like I had deserted my people. I felt really bad about that. When they finally showed up, I was a little tentative to go see the guys again. No problem whatsoever. They were wondering what had happened to me, where I'd gone, and then that's when I heard that Norton, one of the 05 people, was missing. And one of the guys, I don't know who it was, told me that he was next to Norton, and that Norton had said, I forgot something. I have to go back and get it.
Oh.
And that Norton had gone back to get it. And they were talking about the trip off the LZ and what all happened. And the fact that when they started to walk off, somebody tripped a trip flare. And to a man, they all said, we thought we were dead. You know, but everybody froze, which is what you were supposed to do. If a trip flare goes off, just freeze so you're not moving,
Right.
and they'll think you're a tree or a bush or something. They all froze, the flare died down, and they just walked off. And the rest of the time was just spent talking about what we had done over the 3 days, you know, sparsed in with their conversation of their trek from the LZ over to Buprang. But again, like I said, for me to have left under those circumstances, there was nothing against me, which I thought, you know, I felt really bad about it, but there's no animosity towards me whatsoever, which I'm thankful for.
Right.
And to a certain extent, like I say, if that freaking out helped Albrecht make the decision to get the heck out that night, along with the mountain yards, all the better for it.
Right. Because you were really, like you said, you were written off. I mean, it was a death sentence, especially when the yards were going to leave.
Yeah, yeah. And we weren't getting support from our people. I mean, to a certain extent, I was probably at my wit's end just because I hadn't had sleep,
Right.
you know, for that long a period of time. But still, I know the SEALs, I don't know if the berets train for it, but you go through sleep deprivation. I didn't in my training. I wasn't prepared for that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
you know. But
Knowing what you knew of the environment they were obviously walking into, when you found out that they had, you know, successfully gone on the E&E and come out, were you, I know you're dealing with other things, but were you shocked that, you know, that they had made it?
oh, I was totally stoked.
Yeah.
I mean, I was so happy that they did. I'm happy that they finally decided to get the heck out of there,
Right.
to get out of Dodge. Whether it was through a helicopter or anything else, they got off that LZ. You know, and the fact that Albrecht, to his God unbelievable credit, if it wasn't for Albrecht during that whole time, I wouldn't be here. None of us would be here if it wasn't for Albrecht. And his demeanor, his coolness. I mean, the fact that it's kind of like he was so cool. I mean, it seemed like nothing seemed to rattle him, which is what you need in a situation like that. It's like that time when I got hit with the shrapnel. You know, the reason I got hit was because my timing was off because I was so scared. You know, I'm getting, people are firing at us, shooting at us, RPGs coming at us. Okay, I'm scared. I'm still doing the job that I should be doing, but Albrecht is so cool. Calling in the helicopters, making sure they come in on time, making sure they have the proper ordnance, make sure people are waiting up here once those helicopters have expended their ordnance, that there's somebody else to come in and fill in the shoes. If it wasn't for Albrecht, none of us would be here. None of us. And the fact that he didn't get any recognition for it, I mean, all of us appreciate Albrecht. And that's probably the recognition that he cares about. But for the Army, the military, not to acknowledge him by giving him a medal is just wrong.
How did that come about? Because others received medals for that.
Yeah, during the award ceremony, in Bammy Tuit, they set up a little, okay, everybody get in your line, and there was some colonel up there talking yada 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 and giving the officers medals, and it seemed to be that depending upon your rank, depended upon what medal Okay, I was an E3. I was a schmuck. Okay. Officers were getting silver stars, bronze stars. Sergeants were getting silver stars, even though my sergeant stayed inside of his hooch. There were only maybe 3, at the most 4 of the artillery guys from the 155, from the 1st and 92nd, that didn't stay inside their hooches during the entire time. These guys all got the same medals. My sergeant, who didn't come out of that hooch until the very end, he gets a bronze star. Okay, good for him. Okay, just because he had a rank
Right.
and was in action, he got a bronze star. Okay, fine. That's the way you guys want to do it. To me, medals became meaningless at that point in time. That colonel got a silver star,
Who flew in?
who flew in and wouldn't do squat, who flew in, asked us how we were doing, and took off. He gets a silver star. Just,
So how does Albrecht not get one? How does he get overlooked or what?
he was evidently, at the end, we all, where's Albrecht? You know, he should have been here. We found out that he was late because,
Give this a second. Sorry.
that's only a one.
Okay.
He was late because on his way in, evidently there was some action where there's some wounded. He went ahead and had his helicopter divert to pick up the wounded, which, again, to his credit and his character, those people were more important than that medal ceremony. Again, to his credit, that's the type of guy he is. So he was late. Gee whiz, the general or whoever was presenting the awards evidently got pissed, got tired of waiting, took off. So Albrecht didn't get anything,
Jeez.
which he should have.
Right.
I mean, if a medal meant anything, he should have received one.
Right.
You know, he should have received a lot more than that colonel.
You had mentioned earlier Lieutenant Mike Smith was injured and evac. That's when I think Ron Ross came in.
Correct.
But Mike Smith came back.
Yes, yeah.
Tell me about that.
Other than the fact that he came back, I heard that once Lieutenant Ross got hit, LT Smith came back, said, you know, patch me up, put me back in. He comes, he comes in with a patch on his nose. I mean, funny as heck. Of course, I wouldn't tell it to his face, but that's when I saw LT when he came back. I didn't have a lot of conversations with LT Smith until after Kate. That's when I actually got to know him. LT Smith was my lieutenant in AIT at Fort Sill, my advanced
Oh, okay.
individual training. Fort Sill was the home of the artillery, and that's where we trained up for artillery, and he was one of my lieutenants in my training unit. And when Smith first came into our battery, again, this was at Ben Het when he came in. You know, I recognized him. Again, I still didn't talk to the guy. He was a LT, a lieutenant. He was an officer. I was a schmuck. You know, just a regular E2 at that point in time. I think it was, or E3. I don't know. But that's basically what I knew of the LT. Just the fact that he came back, where he didn't have to, and probably anybody. You know, you're hurt, you don't have to go back out there. Again, to his credit, he came out there not simply because of us. You know, we were his people. That, again, that's the quality of the people that we have. You know, he didn't have to, but he did. Why? Because we were his people.
Because he
You know.
went back to a crazy hot, you know.
And he knew it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, when we first went out there, yeah, we had a little apprehension about the possibility of having a hot LZ, which didn't materialize. He knew what he was getting into when he came back,
Right.
you know. And again, that's the quality, the character of LT Smith. You know, he was coming out to his people. He was going to do everything he can to keep his people safe.
Right.
You know, and when he came in, like I said, it was funny because of the patchwork on his nose. It was a good laugh during that
Right.
period of time.
Right.
You know, that was good.
The last thing, just tell me briefly, I know you struggled a little bit when you came back to the US with the reception that you
Oh.
were getting and that. And you don't have to tell me too much about that. I mean, if you want to talk about it, that's fine. But I think that is, you know, something, and I distribute these films a lot through the schools and that. Of course, we have generations, mine included, I'm only 46, didn't grow up through this era, and you don't know a lot of, I mean, you hear of the reception that a lot of vets came back to. If you want to tell me a little bit about that. And
Before I came home, we were at this, they made me a section chief. I was still an E4. It's an E6 job. We were at LZ Susie, outside of Ankei. We had gotten hit. They sent me, and the next morning, somebody came over to me and said, "You have to go back into base camp. You're getting out of here." 2 days later, I'm in Washington State, getting out of the Army. There's no decompression time. I don't know what they call it. But we get bused to the airport back to San Diego. I have my uniform on. No.
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's, I don't want to.
Because of that, I changed my name. I changed the spelling. Instead of Ken, I changed it to a 4-letter word. Then when I got here, trying to fit back into the people that I knew, I couldn't. They wanted this Ken. I had changed. I'm now Kenn. Thanks to the people in Washington. I figured I want that 4-letter word instead of the other ones that they were calling me. I couldn't relate to my friends here. So I ran away to Europe. Stayed there for 4 months to decompress, I guess it was. And then when I came back, you know, made new friends, this, that, and the other. But that's when I changed the spelling of my name to Kenn. Little side note. Simply because people, you come back, you spend time over there, and all they wanted to do was look down on us. I mean, if anything, because of us, at least the guys now are getting the respect that they deserve when they come back.
Right.
They're getting the support that they need when they come back. If anything, just because of us.
You're talking about like the guys who are in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yes, yes. At least they're getting the support now, or we didn't. Like I said, 2 days before I was in the United States, we were getting hit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no decompression. There's no coming down.
Right.
There's no counseling.
Which they do today.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Evidently, I got to. These are.
Like I said, I think it's important to know, because like I said, I think a majority of the people who will watch this film didn't live it, especially as it's distributed through the schools. And they don't know how those experiences, like you say, have hopefully changed things, the way the military, gets people out, gets them reacclimated into civilian life. And so, I think it's an important part of the story to put in there.
Yeah, if anything, simply because of Vietnam, at least we're treating our veterans now because of how we were treated.
Right.
You know, people cussing at you, people, the looks. I mean, before it would be, okay, you go into a bar or something in your uniform with medals and people would buy you a drink or something.
Right.
During Vietnam, you came in with your uniform, you were looked down upon, and you could feel their look of contempt towards you, which isn't right. I mean, whether or not we were drafted, joined, or anything else, we were still for this country, and to have your own people turn against you in that way, whether or not I was for the war or not, personally, you still don't treat your people that way.
Right.
And yeah, it did have a certain effect, which I obviously didn't realize on me, the way I was treated. Even when I came back here, it's like when I was in Vietnam, I took a lot of pictures. And on Firebase 6, the only time I took pictures of dead people was at Firebase 6. When I came back here, the reason I took it was to show the horror of war and what actually happens. This is what we're doing to human beings, you know. It's real, it's not the movies. When I came back and I'm showing these pictures, people were all, ooh, ooh. You know, that's not the reason I took those pictures.
Right.
It wasn't to make these people think, oh, wow, yeah, that's really trippy or anything like that. I just wanted them to see the horrors of war. This is real stuff. This is what we do to other human beings.
Mm-hmm.
War's not a fun thing to do, but if you're going to fight, fight. Don't be Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
You go in there, these are people's lives on the line. You give them all the support you can. And nobody here I could relate to.
Yeah.
Even my own brother, I couldn't relate to him. It was like they would kind of, you just couldn't get close to people anymore. And that's one reason why I ran away to Europe.
Yeah.
You know, just to give me time to decompress.
Right.
And then when I came back, whole new association of friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they didn't know me.
Right.
You know, I could be who I was instead of these people. Oh yeah, he was in the military. You know, the military. I totally forgot about the military. I put it all behind me.
Right.
You know, so.
So what did you do then, or what have you done up to this point? What did you get into outside the military?
Oh, gee whiz, went back, got my math degree, became a gardener with a math degree. Did that for 15 years, went to work for a bank, went to work for the bank as their gardener, got a job because I was teaching myself computers. This is what, 83.
Okay, yeah.
Started teaching myself computers, got inside the bank in their trustee department, started writing programs to help us do our work, make our work easier.
Sure.
Ended up running that subsidiary. The bank was taken over by the RTC. Started my own trustee company, foreclosed on this area that I'm living in so that they could build these houses. Went to work for Chicago Title now. I work as a programmer for a company that, Innova Systems, that writes software for a special client.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, anything in closing, anything we didn't cover, mostly in regards to Kate or your time there, or any people there that maybe we didn't talk about that you want to get on record before I...
Other than the fact that, like I said earlier, artillery was used differently in Vietnam.
Yeah, you mentioned that you thought they were experimenting.
Yeah. Before World War I, World War II, artillery was always in the rear.
Mm-hmm.
Always in the rear. In Vietnam, artillery was on the front line. We were the front line. We were put out places. We were put in places, sometimes it seemed like they were experimenting with us, just to see if we could last without air support during the monsoon, because the roads would be too muddy. They couldn't bring us supplies. It rained too often during the monsoon season for them to bring in supplies. We went 6 days with the only liquid that we had was the peach juice that was in the sea rations.
Oh, man.
They gave us water. We had water to, when you fired around in the artillery, you'd open the breech and you'd have to clean the breech of all the excess residue from the powder,
Mm-hmm.
and close it for the next one. We had water to clean that, but they didn't have potable water for
Okay.
us, so we had to get it from the sea ration, peaches and I think pears and
Wow.
some other fruits that they had. But that was artillery then. I don't know, from what I understood of Iraq, artillery was basically the self-propelled
Mm-hmm.
kind, for all intents and purposes, a tank.
Mm-hmm.
Now with Afghanistan, I don't know if again artillery is being used like we were in Vietnam, or if artillery is still in a rear type situation. That I don't know. But in Vietnam, we were on the front line.
Yeah.
That was the face of artillery,
Right.
at least during Vietnam. Infantry, they get a combat infantry badge. Some of our guys that were in country maybe 3 months saw more action than a lot of the infantry guys saw in their whole year.
Mm-hmm.
All we got was a Vietnam service ribbon,
Well, like you said, it seems like a lot of the medals and awards there's a lot of politics or,
Yes.
yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah, agreed. I honestly can't think of anything. I mean, for all intents and purposes, for a 21-year-old, camping out every night,
Yeah.
swimming in streams, seeing elephants and tigers, hunting boar, hunting deer, what more could you ask for?
Yeah.
What a dream. I wouldn't want to do it again, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Mm-hmm.
And to a large extent, I think if it wasn't for Vietnam, I don't know where I'd be now. I mean, friends of mine, 3 friends died from basically drug-related deaths. That was in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Drugs were the big thing. And good thing I got drafted. It got me out of the people that I was with. Like I said, 3 of them had died from overdose or drug-related deaths. The rest of them, they're really not doing a whole hell of a lot with their lives.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like the ones that were in the military that I know that I went to school with, at least they're doing something with their lives now.
Right.
So for all intents and purposes, it was a good thing I got drafted.
Yeah, a life-changing experience as long as you live through it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. It shows you what you can do,
Yeah.
you know, what you're capable of, and the consequences of your actions,
Right.
you know. So, yeah.
Well, that's all I have for you. I mean, I for one would like to say thank you for your service. I mean, I know you were in a unfortunate time coming back where that wasn't the sentiment.
Yeah.
But like you said, hopefully it's, you know, it's changed for future generations.
Yeah,
So,
and I think it will. I think it will, simply because of Vietnam,
right.
you know. It's a good thing.
Well, thank you again for all your time. I know it probably took more of your time than
No,